Hello.
Hey, hey.
Hi everyone, it's Mehmet.
Hello. As usual, we'll give everyone a few minutes to check in, and then we can get started for today. If you have any point to discuss, feel free to add it to the agenda point. And else we'll just let everyone else joining slowly. And for sure, feel free to add your name to the attendees list. That's more than welcome.
Figure out how to do the YouTube recording.
Alrighty. I see we're getting more and more people joining us, which is beautiful. I will then slowly getting it started. In worst case scenario, we can also later just get it downloaded from Zoom and then upload it again, which is a little bit more annoying process, but we also can do it this way, I guess. Perfect. So again, I will drop a link into the chat where you can find your way to the notes if you want to. Please feel free to add yourself to it. My name is Max Körbecher. I will be your host today. And first things all, this is a CNCF project. So it falls under the CNCF Code of Conduct, which boils down practically to be nice and awesome and fantastic to each other. And for today, we have actually an exciting presentation from Asim and the colleagues from the Green Software Foundation. But before we go to that point, besides the colleagues of the GSF, is there anything else new in the chat who would like to say, or in the stream whatsoever, and say hi to us?
Hey, well, this is the first time I'm joining. I'm Stuart, so I work at Bloomberg, but all views are my own. But yeah, so I have been attending the Green Software Foundation meetings as well, which kind of raised me to join this. But I know Bloomberg's a member of CNCF, so hoping to keep joining in the future.
Fantastic. Welcome.
And hi, my name is Gosha. I'm actually working with Stuart at Bloomberg as well, but also attending in my own capacity, and have listened to some of Asim's talks before as well. So very excited to listen to this one as well.
Awesome.
I'm
welcome.
First time for me too, Penny Resnick. I'm co-founder of Container Solutions, where I don't work anymore, and a long-term supporter of CNCF and other things. And I'm starting to work on something new, which is in green software area. And, a bit too early to say exactly what, but we'll be probably joining more now.
Cool. Awesome to have you. All right. With that, we need a note taker. Is anyone up to take this beautiful, lovely tasks of putting all of your words in something useful for the later world?
I can do it.
Thank you, Marlo.
Yeah, that's fine.
Fantastic. I think with that, we can go straight ahead. The stage is yours, Azim. Feel free. Introduce yourself, introduce your topic. I think you can do it way better than myself.
Awesome. Let me just make sure, try and kill my notifications. Okay, hopefully that's going to kill it all. Awesome. Hi, my name's Asim. I am Asim Hussain. I'm based in the UK, near London. I am the chair and executive director of the Green Software Foundation. Another Linux Foundation, if you're not aware of us, we work very closely with everybody else. And I'm also a director of green software at Intel. So my focus for quite a few years, for quite a long time, has been this very narrow field, which you're all kind of asking the same questions. I've been kind of like trying to narrow my thinking in this space for a while. I'm very much focused around the reducing the environmental impact of software. What I believe I had promised to give you a presentation or talk to you today about was both some of the new thinking that's happening inside the GSF, something called the 4Ms of green software, and also talk a little bit about a project that we're driving called the Impact Engine Framework. If there's one thing that I would say, like, we're very hyper focused in the GSF, is measuring. Over many years of being in the space, without measurement, nothing will happen at all. I've been spinning my wheels for years around this. We have to solve the measurement problem first. If you solve the measurement problem, everything else will just resolve itself. The stuff the foundation has been working on for quite a few years now has been specs and standards around measurement. So there's one called a software carbon intensity specification, which has just reached, or no, hasn't just reached ISO. We're like 1 millimeter away from the ISO hurdle. So hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, we'll have an ISO catalog entry, and we'll finally have like an ISO certified method of measuring software, specifically software emissions. And what the IEF is, the Impact Engine Framework, is the way to actually calculate software emissions in a way that makes sense for the SCI and kind of other protocols as well. So I will talk, and our kind of initial goal for a lot of this stuff is to measure open source. The SCI was actually developed with the intention that open source should be a first-class citizen for measurement, not like a third or fourth class, which is where it is right now in terms of other protocols. Where's my slides? I've lost my slides. No, here we are. Okay, cool. Very quickly, I thought I'd just quickly go through. I've lost you all now. Oh, there you are. Oh, here we are. I'm back again. Let me share my screen. Screen one. So what the SCI is a way of measuring software emissions. It's been built through the standards working group in the foundation. It's been built over 2 years. Every line of the specification has so much conversation. But effectively, what we want to do, what we realized early on, is that for software, we need a rate, not a total. So for this call, for Zoom, it might be carbon per minute. Our rates are far more useful to people in order to drive reductions and footprints. And we also need to move away from the scopes in particular. Oh, shizzle, how do I get rid of my Teams notifications? Anyway, hopefully it won't. I thought I killed my Teams. I don't see a Teams. How can I be getting notifications? And so what you would get is an SEI score, and the SEI score is the energy consumed by your application, the embodied emissions from the use of your application, and the carbon intensity, what's called grid intensity, how clean or dirty electricity is per R. R could be anything. R could be a benchmark application, which is what we imagine most open source software projects would structure as. It could be per minute if you're actually a running SaaS application. It could be per user. It could be per website visit. It's per something. Let me try and figure out how to kill. Are you seeing these Teams notifications? Why am I not?
Unfortunately, yes, we can see it.
Okay, well, give me a second. And my Teams is definitely closed.
Yeah.
Teams is sneaky, so you can try the on the taskbar you have like a how do you call it, like a pointer where you can see the background processes. You can see if it's there. You will need to kill it.
Yeah. Okay.
I know the pain.
You know the pain.
That one, yeah.
Where is this Teams instance? Who's messaging me? Oh wait, oh my God, there's a Slack there as well. Let me kill that one.
It's so you never escape. You
It's
never
like a
escape.
never escape work. Okay, let me just I can't even seem to kill Teams. I want you to exit, not minimize the taskbar. Oh, for God's sakes.
When I get cranky, I just use the task manager and kill it the proper way.
Yeah. How'd you make Teams like not notify? I apologize, or I should know this. I worked at Microsoft for many years. Oh, here we go. Do not disturb. Here we go. All right then. Bye. Okay, back to there. Okay. All right. So that's kind of the SEI. So that's the SEI. Now, calculating that is really, really hard. The spec was the spec, and now we're all focused on actually how do we calculate this? And that's kind of where we're all at right now, and that's kind of what the Impact Engine framework is all about. Let me just walk you through some of the stuff though, that might be useful to know. Well, useful to know. So the 4 M's, you know who I am. I introduced myself. What is green software? So when we talk about software, we just talk about energy efficiency, so using the least amount of electricity possible, hardware efficiency, using the least amount of hardware possible, and carbon awareness, doing more when electricity is clean and less when it's dirty. Those are the 3 pillars of green software. Anything that you do almost always fits into one or more of those 3 pillars. And when it comes to the 4 M's, why am I talking about the 4 M's? This is a new thing. Every successful high-profile, this is in my experience, every successful high-profile green software project has involved 3 of the following. In my experience, every successful green software project has involved 3 of the following: modeling, measuring, simulation. Slight creative freedom there with the 3rd M, but you would not have liked the other options for the M. So this is the best one you can get. And the last one is monitoring. So any kind of like very high profile, like millions of dollars, like things like that, green software project, no one's going to invest any time and money unless you've modeled it, unless you've modeled the impact, unless you've said, if you invest in X, this is the impact it will have. I've seen time and time again, you can usually get a little bit of investment, a little bit of funding. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. If we implement X, we can reduce emissions. Trust me. But if you want any serious investment, you need to show numbers. You need to show, if you give me X million, this is the emissions reduction we will have. So that's always done with modeling, and it's always done with a meta spreadsheets. These are all your applications. These are the current emissions. If we were to do it this way, if we were to implement this functionality, this is the emissions reduction you will have. That's what it's all, that's what drives any high profile project. That's modeling and measuring. Measuring is extremely hard. Measuring depends upon so many assumptions. Which models are you using? What inputs are you using? How granular have you gone? This is very important to get to, because if you can get super granular on the measuring thing, then you can get super interesting on the simulation front. If you can really break down the emissions of a software by time, by component, and really get into the in-depth world with some really advanced models, you can really play around with simulation. You can start simulating things like, What if we made all of this stuff carbon aware? What if we move regions? What if we changed from a monolith to a microservice? What could we do? Like, you need to get to that really granular, fine-grained data in order to kind of give those simulated results. And only with like one of those simulated, this, if we did X, why was the emissions reduction? Does any money flow into the space? So that is actually the three that I've seen. My fourth monitoring is me making quite a big punt and just seeing where the conversations are landing right now. I do firmly believe the future of sustainability is in monitoring emissions. I believe the future of sustainability, that once a year measurements, I don't believe achieve anything. So the future of sustainability is in real-time monitoring of emissions from a software level, from a corporate level, from an country level, from a global level. That's honestly the future that I see. So that's the kind of 4 M's of green software. This is all related to the impact engine. So the first one is modeling. And this is something that again came up very early days when we started to explore, literally 2 years ago, when we started to just, honestly, the first few conversations with the standards working group, where they started to explore the software carbon intensity specification. The first thing that came up with is people are going to try and game. They're going to try and find workarounds for any methodology which we come up with. They're going to try and find ways in which to present reductions without actually making reductions in software. That is kind of, there's so much pressure these days. That was one of the first conversations that we had. So one of the first things that we kind of like talked about was this idea of like, well, what is an application? Every time, what is an application? Like, what is an application? So this is, if you're looking at a fridge, you know what a fridge is. You can look at a fridge, it's a physical thing, you know it should have a door. If someone delivers a fridge to you and it doesn't have a door, you're going to ask some questions, because every fridge has a door. Someone gives you like an application, it's missing some component, you probably don't know it's missing a component, you don't know what's going on, because it's like so bespoke. What is an application? You know from a fridge, like, you know where the boundaries of it is. What's the boundary of your application? Do you include, so many times when I see reports people generate about, there's the emissions of my software application, you dig into it and you're like, oh, okay, you're a website report. Okay, you're not including the screen. You're not including the emissions from the screen. You're just including the emissions from the CPU. Oh, you're just including the emissions from the CPU on your laptop. Oh, you're including networking, but you're not including the screen. Like, there's this big question of what are you measuring when you measure an application? What is in the scope? What is out of scope? That came up a lot, because one of the things that we've seen historically is people think they're comparing apples to apples when they're comparing two sustainability reports from two similar organizations or two similar software products. But what you often find is that software product A has measured all of these things, software product B has only measured these things, and they're reporting it as the same emissions. So it looks like this is reporting fewer emissions, but it's not really. They just didn't bother including the database, or it was too hard to include the screen, so they didn't bother including the screen, or they use a different model for networking, whereas these people use much more advanced models for the networking. So it gets, what is an application? What are you including? What you're not including? That's what we call the software boundary. When you're measuring a piece of software, you need to define what is the boundary of a piece of software. This is actually embedded in the SCI spec, is this idea of a software boundary. Marlo?
Just a quick question, which is, when you're looking at all of these, are you also looking at the impact of your measurements? Because one of the things that we see when we're looking at high performance applications, like, I don't know, telcos, so DPDK, or anything involving HPC or some of the AI/ML, they care about how fast their cores are running. And every time you observe the core, so for instance, if you're using ISO CPUs, it causes a kernel interrupt.
Yeah. So we don't. So one of the things this is one of the things everything is a model. So we are estimating everything through other things that are being observed already about a platform. So oftentimes what we're doing is modeling energy from CPU utilization, which is already being monitored and reported and things like that. You've got, I don't know, we haven't really dealt with kind of truly HPC scenarios with kind of high throughput or something like that yet, but Yeah, if you can't observe it, if there's nothing observable about it that you can see, that you can infer from some energy, then well, you can't measure it. Yeah, hopefully that answers it. So so this is kind of like, so this is the thing, like we define, you have to be very, very clear, and you have to define what is the boundary for your piece of software, because if you want to make any apples to apples comparison, or even comparisons with yourself over time, there's always pressure, you know, time and time again, as you want to improve and your application's changing as well, just to remove a component or add a component. So you have to define the boundary of a piece of software. And that's why we developed something. This is what the IEF, one of the aspects of it is something called an impact YAML or IMPL. It's a calculation manifest. It's a manifest file which is describing what is it that you are calculating. You have to this is the actual structure's changed already, but you have to define the different components, and it can be a graph structure. So you can go as nested, as deep as you want, but you're actually defining very concretely this. I'm not just giving you a summary number. This is what we're actually calculating. This is what the components of the application are. So that's an IMPL. When it comes to measuring, this is one that Marla, this is what we've worked on. We're very much focused around modeling. So everything is a model. Nothing that we're doing in this stage right now is anything to do with direct measurement. I think that's interesting, and I think you can get some quite useful fine-grained metrics out of that. But if we want to do end-to-end measurement or anything broad scale, kind of any kind of we were looking for a solution which doesn't force anybody to change any aspects of how they run their software as it is. If they're observing something, aspects about it, some utilization, some billing data, whatever, that's what everybody's doing right now. How can we convert that into carbon emissions? So we have this idea of an observation that turns into what we call an impact metric. Impact metrics right now are carbon, but we're looking to create models around water and other things as well. So as long as you can observe something about a platform, you can convert it into some sort of impact metric. Everything is a model. And it really matters. Like these days, what we see is just a lot of focus on looking at the carbon emissions on the right-hand side, and just losing sight of the fact that to actually generate those carbon emissions, you observe some aspects of the system. And so it really matters. Everything is a model, no matter what you're doing. Like everything people are using right now is a model. So it really matters what that model is and how it functions. So if you're using a model which takes CPU utilization and turns into carbon emissions, and that's the model that you're using to measure the emissions of your piece of software, what are the things you can do to reduce the emissions of your piece of software? Change the utilization. If you're using a model which uses billing data, and there's a lot of this stuff also is happening. If this is your model that you're using, what are the things you can do to reduce the emissions of your software? According to this model, reduce spend. The model is extremely important in terms of changing behavior, because depending on the model that you use, you're driving different behaviors. This is an idea which is really formed like 6 months ago, which is this idea in the foundation of measurement for reporting versus measurement for action. Measurement for reporting, if you're doing corporate voluntary reporting or regulatory reporting or something along those lines, you're trying to answer a very different question. You're trying to answer the question, how can I defend this number? How can I defend this number to lawyers? How can I defend this number to auditors? How can I defend this number to regulators? How can I defend it? Which is why oftentimes when you're doing measuring for reporting, the way you measure becomes useless for driving action. Case in point, a lot of the cloud providers provide data from a reporting perspective here that's 3 months delayed. Energy data that's 3 months delayed. The reason for that 3 month delay is so that they get evidence from the utility providers of billing, of purchasing of energy, because that's the only data that auditors will take as evidence that that energy was consumed. Does that make sense? So there's like the reporting imperative means the data that you're getting doesn't drive any action. So it's all about the right-hand side of the equation. Measurement for action is about what are the things I need to do to reduce that number? I don't care about proving it. I just need a number that I just care about how do I reduce that number. That's what measurement for action is all about. Oftentimes when we talk about measurement for action, we actually don't really care. We don't care that carbon number isn't accurate. It doesn't matter if it's exactly the right number. All that matters is that you can do actions that reduce a number on the right-hand side. It acts more like a signal to action. So we often talk about in the SCIs about directionally accurate. So as long as the number goes down when you're doing good things, and that therefore it drives the good things, that's what's important. We don't get over hyped about making sure this number is accurate to X decimal places, because that's not important from a. We very much focus on the actions that reduce reducing those actions. Having a number which rewards actions that you can take to reduce emissions, and oftentimes measurement for reporting doesn't have that. There's lots of models out there. These are some open source ones that there are. Cloud Carbon Footprint is a famous one. Oftentimes it's basically based around billing data. Boa Vista has an interesting one. It's based around utilization. Climatic is based around utilization, but they're all using different methodologies and how do you use one versus the other. So that's one of the things we're doing in the Impact Engine Framework project is a standardization of interface. So you can leverage, we're standardizing an interface to models. So you can use any model that you want. You can plug and play it. We're calling them plugins. So you can try it out. You can get all of your observations together for your application using the Cloud Carbon Footprint model. You want to try a different model. You want to try the Boa Vista model. You just change the plugin that you use. The interface is exactly the same. It means we can use it. Right now, all these models have their complete, one's got USB-C, one's Thunderbolt, one's USB something else, one's this thing that I've got in my pile that I've never seen before. They're all using very, very different connectors. We're trying to make them all use the same connectors, and that way we can start using different models to measure different things. And this is basically what the impact YAML moves on to. So very quickly, yeah, here we go. So very quickly, this is kind of like where we want to get to. This is where we are getting to right now. Is every open source project that we're going to be running and that we're encouraging others to do as well creates one of these things called an impact YAML impl manifest file, and it can be updated. You can update it every day. You can update it every month. It depends whatever data you get access to. It's very flexible. This is for an example for our website. So our website has a graph, has multiple nodes that are being measured. We have a static website that kind of builds. We use Netlify, we use GitHub Pages. We have a serving component. So we serve their website through Netlify. We have a certain amount of traffic that goes from our website every month. It's used in the browser. So measuring end to end our website. Each one of these things you want to measure as a component, and it has a model. So it has a model that converts some inputs to carbon emissions. Every one of those models uses the same interface. So for instance, this Netlify model for building, we use a node website, and it's based on a number of builds. This 67 times the number of times our website got built last month. You pass it through the Netlify node model, and it gives you energy and carbon emissions. So that's that side of it sorted out. Same with GitHub Pages. We serve our website, so then there'll be a serving model. We have a certain number of users who visit our website every month, and that gets converted through that model into carbon per user, carbon per serving. We have a certain amount of traffic per month. Which model do we use to convert traffic to carbon or energy emissions? Well, we might want to use the CO2JS. There's multiple models. There's OneShift, there's I've got what the other ones are, but there's multiple models out there. We're going to be very explicit. This is the model that we're using. This is the data we're passing into the model, and this is the model that we're using. For the browser, we might have a different model with the same data. The important thing is that when we actually calculate the emissions of our website, we're not just like giving somebody a number and going, trust us. We're giving somebody a number and say, check out our manifest file. These are all the inputs that we use that number. These are all the models that we use. You don't believe us, you don't like us, you think we did something wrong. It's open source. Feel free to write a pull request. If you think the model's wrong, write a pull request versus the model. It's all out there. It's all out there in the open, which means that when we make improvements to our website, we can then compare with the different impact manifests over time. That's basically what we're trying to get to as a first implementation of impact engine framework. So our goal is to get something. We think it's going to be coming like sci.yaml in the root of your repository. It'd have all the data that to represent your application. Then we'd build a GitHub action, which calls our command line tool. It's called Rimple, which runs your impl and generates a really detailed breakdown of not only what your emissions are, but emissions broken down by time, by component. And then we'd have kind of some sort of, we haven't built this yet, some sort of README badge. So then we could see like carbon per user for a website is this. You click it, and then we'd read all that information and be able to show you like a matrix breakdown of that's our top level carbon emissions. Dig into it. How does it break down by component? How does it break down by time? What are the hotspots? Where do things seem to have emitted more carbon? Why? Well, why is it emitting more carbon that time? Why is that component at that time emitting more carbon? Yeah, that's basically where we are. We're still pretty very early stages in the project. The spec's still getting written up, but there's a lot of interest, and we've had a full-time dev, a PM's coming on board, and a researcher's coming on board to help drive this project forward. But this is the impact engine framework, and it's going to be what we do to actually measure the carbon emissions. But the future of this is monitoring. I won't go into it, I don't have time to it, but the future of this is once you've got this model, once you've got all that stuff built out, you can connect it to real-time data sources, and then you can start monitoring emissions in the real time as well. I've just been rambling for like half an hour now, so I don't know if this has been any useful, but I'm going to finish rambling now. So this is the end of the rambling. Marlo's got a question. Hey, Marlo.
Hi. Usually when I'm talking about carbon aware projects or saving power, any of that stuff, I hear something about what is the cost of your project on the emissions. So I'm going to ask you the same on this.
The cost of your measurement projects.
Correct.
Yeah,
because there are cases where that measurement can be very expensive.
There are cases. This is one of the reasons why, oftentimes, not high, because the lowest level granularity we would go from a temporal perspective is 5 minutes. Because in terms of grid emissions, the grid emissions data doesn't get more granular than 5 minutes. So temporally would never go less than 5 minutes. And component wise, I suppose that goes as how long is your hand, how long is your arm, how long is a piece of string, number of components. So the actual physical number of executions and operations you need to do here is relatively low compared to like a real running application, which is running like millions of operations a second. Just on a napkin, I can tell you that we're going to be running much less compute, because there's no point running more frequently than every 5 minutes, put it that way. So that aspect of it as well. But yeah, we should also, it hasn't been built yet, so we should measure how it's we should measure it once it should. Whoa, that's recursive, isn't it? We should measure ourselves using ourselves. Will that function ever end? I don't know. Yeah,
it's like the inception of GitHub building GitHub with GitHub, right?
Yeah,
You need to
You just broken my mind. You've broken my mind right now. I don't think the function will ever end. But yeah, we should measure ourselves using ourselves. That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
I think overall it sounds very, very fantastic. It's very similar, or the idea behind it is very similar to a proposal which we have written up a couple of months ago, where we said like, hey, if you want to bring this to all the open source projects and make it understandable, and like someone can print out the sheet and like take it and say like, this is how it's working, or this is what it's causing, that can be already quite helpful. So not everyone needs to measure it by themselves. And you also have something where you can see maybe over time an improvement, right? Because one of the purpose of SCI is like you have like, you can compare per releases and see like, okay, are the actions which I'm taking improving the software, improving the system setup? It's very lovely.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from the team? Don't be shy, Azam is not biting.
If there are no questions, I actually am late. I do apologize. I've mentioned them all. I've got to jump to something else. But one of the things I would say is that we are very early stages in this project. And if anybody from the CNCF, any projects from the CNCF want to collaborate with us to explore what would it be like to measure one of your projects using this system, it's right now, it's like we're trying to drive requirements into the project, and everything that we're looking at is so different. It's just driving different requirements. So it'd be really useful to us if anybody wants to partner in and measure something of yours using this in a joint team. Nikki?
How do we get involved?
Oh, shizzle, we have different rules, don't we? So I think I'll share the actual project. It's the IEF. I've lost where I am. I'll share. A, reach out to me is I'd say the short and the sweet. B, here's our project repo. Unfortunately, I haven't even updated it. The information is completely wrong. But throw in an issue or something like that, or I'll create an issue about getting involved and kind of drop your name as a comment. And yeah, just drop an issue into there. I'd say the best way. Yeah. And we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks for all the time. And if any other further question pops up, I will guide the people to you.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Max. Thanks, Marla. Catch you all later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Drive safely.
Bye.
All right. Wow. Sounds fantastic. I think that's actually what we also have in mind when we're talking about how to measure all the open source projects, to find a kind of like similar way and giving enough information and output for also the end users of it, and making from this quite crazy world of sustainability something which you can take in the hand and try to understand what's actually going on. Very, very cool. Based on that, is there any other business so far, any other discussion point which someone of you would like to bring up?
Hello, team. I'm from Microsoft, and I've been working with the CNCF on the Carbon Aware KEDA project with the KEDA lead as well. And just wanted to see if you had this project on the radar, on the agenda. We have pushed the KEPS proposal basically to, okay, so the short story, I'll share with you the link. We built like a Kubernetes operator on top of KEDA that implements the carbon awareness. But the ideal thing would be to have this carbon aware logic in KEDA itself. And this project is driven by Tom as well. So just wanted to see if it was in an agenda. Otherwise, I would be happy to, to put it and collaborate on.
You're talking about the carbon aware SDK, which you have included, right?
Exactly, yes. So the Kubernetes carbon aware carbon KEDA operator basically gets the data from another cooperator, which is called Kubernetes exporter. And then it uses this data to implement carbon aware scaling. So I'll just share with you the link, and in the link you'll find the other repo, which is the export.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think we even have this in the landscape document, don't we have? Marlo, you're also raising the hand.
It may be, I don't remember specifically, but it may be useful for you guys to come in and do a presentation and demo if that's helpful. And there are multiple projects in the community that are doing program aware type scheduling, but it would be really nice to have a demo on this one.
Definitely, I can set up this with pleasure. I'll just share with you right now the link to the proposal.
It's perfect. And I also dropped the link in the chat for the CNCF landscape, or not CNCF landscape, for our sustainability landscape, practically. So there is an entry point for KIDA, but I see that there we can add definitely some more words to it, and then you can also reference to your implementation and make it a little bit more clear. So you can feel free to contribute back there.
Okay.
We don't have a talk yet lined up, Max, for next call. So if we want to do KIDA for that one, that's in 2 weeks.
It would be next month, in 2 weeks.
It's in 2 weeks. That would be the 16th.
Yeah, I mean, I should be able to set up the demo.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Let's place you on the agenda.
All right. On
That's how fast we find new presentations.
There you go. Cool. And I try to have Tom on the call as well. He's the lead on KIDA project.
That sounds very great. Thank you very much for bringing this up. Sounds fantastic. And then I saw one message in the channel. Yeah. For sure, if there's anyone new to the round, you still have time to also shortly introduce yourself. We did this in the beginning, but it's never too late to say hi.
That was probably me. Hi, I'm James. I have been to one before, I think, so I didn't know if I was new or not, but that was a while back. Software engineer, work for a company called Oliver Wyman, but this is not really associated with them. Just really passionate about sustainability issues and software. So, hi.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Sayam Pathak and I am a field CTO at Civo. We are a cloud platform and I'm a CNCF ambassador. I teach the latest cloud stuff as well. So I have been exploring the CNCF sustainability, CNCF products with respect to sustainability. I created a couple of videos on Kepler and Cube Green for scaling down the deployment to 0 for Cube Green, and going into the architecture and how stuff works with respect to the Kepler project using the eBPF superpowers and stuff like that. So I have created those videos. I did send in the CNCF ambassador group as well. Have been exploring this space, how, and also I'm planning with a couple of folks in India to do a mini conf type of thing with respect to sustainability. So I'm trying to put together some of the stuff. I do have few folks who are implementing. The whole goal was to call the people actually who have been implementing some of the practices so that they can share how they are doing it and other people can learn. And some would be the new tools, like what existing tools that are there that people can use as of today to create a significant impact, leaving all the politics and all that stuff aside. So just the core tech, there are some tools that you can use and you can do your part with respect to, scaling your deployments to 0 or measuring the carbon footprint via different tools, and then, scaling the nodes according to that. And I'll be exploring even more tools and yes, creating videos on them. So that was me. I just saw the message and I came directly to it. I was in another meeting as well, so I just dropped off. I said I have to say hi to the folks over there. So here I am, and hi from me.
Thank you very much. Great having you here. Yeah, this is Christina is pointing out to a relevant point. Is your event which you're planning also part of the Cloud Native Sustainability Week initiative?
Yes, so we have one person already. She has her name, Nancy from Bangalore. She would have given her name. But she's involved with me on DevOps Days organization as well. So I'm part of the core committee of DevOps Days. And I also did KCD Mumbai, so a bunch of conferences. So I asked her if anything is already there in place. So she said right now she doesn't have a plan. So we are forming a couple of folks team to create a plan and do something during that week in Bangalore.
Cool. Awesome. Fantastic. All right. Looking into the time, we have just a couple of minutes more or less left. What's currently we still have in progress is the finalization for the work group green review. There are few little minor clarifications going on, but I think overall, beside that, we're more or less good to go on this point. And the second part is that also Carla started drafting a proposal for the work group for communications. And this is a little shout out and call to you all if you're interested to shape more the communication of this technical advisory group. Then feel free to throw in your ideas, or if you would like to participate, to show your interest. We have different thoughts about it. On the one hand side, we also would like to distribute it a little bit. So if different projects and different work groups will shape their own communication, and the comms work group is just ensuring that the communication is overall in line with what we want to communicate and that the wording is perfect. But also to have different activities within the comms work group, for example, collaborating with other organizations as the GSF or whoever else is out there, because actually the market is quite full of different projects going on. With that saying, let's have a look on different things shortly in the GitHub repository if there's no other urgent topic from your side.
Can I just follow up just for a moment, Max, just real quick?
Sure.
We really do need help with the comms. We just don't have enough people there helping, and we're going to have KubeCon coming up, and we need to make sure that everyone's aware of their local sustainability event with Sustainability Week. So having some people step up and help would really be helpful there. That's all.
Thank you. We talked already about the Sustainability Week. You can find currently all the planning and tracking issues in the GitHub repository of us. The right one. Looks good. So have a look there if you can support and help the group in driving forward the Cloud Native Sustainability Week. I think overall it's getting into a crazy big project in the end. So there's definitely some helping hands wanted. And I think we also put it here on our website. You see currently, I think it's even more than 27 locations. I think we're somewhere up to 40 or something like that. Planning a lot of activities and a lot of little events. So if there's something missing, or you would like to contribute to something of these events, or if you would add yet another location because there aren't enough, and it's always good to spread the word, then feel free to contribute back, propose your location. Not sure which is the right ticket right now, because we have dozens of organizational tickets, but I'm pretty sure you'll find your way to it. And if there are any questions towards the Cloud Native Sustainability Week, in the main tracking issue, you'll find also everyone whom you can ask about the activities and what else is needed.
Max, related to Cloud Sustainability Week, we will have another meeting, right, to discuss this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
They will be announced typically in our Slack channel. The last one was, I guess, on the 10th of July. So you will more or less soon have the next one, I guess. Not sure when it's fixed.
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, it is
perfect.
okay. Yeah, I have already joined and have some tasks to do. I would like to say something, but tomorrow I am gonna share my stuff. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Maybe you can drop another reminder to the Slack channel. That would be fantastic.
No problem. It is nice to attend this meeting as well.
Awesome. Yeah, about the proposal we shortly talked already about. There you can find everything in. And yeah, I think if there is no other topic, I'll shortly check if someone else has raised the hands. Doesn't look like. Then I think we went through it for today. Thank you very much again, everyone, for coming by. I think it was a very interesting presentation from SM, and looking forward for all your contributions and see you out there in Slack, Zoom, conferences, and so on. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.